Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to begin the week as usual with giving charity, which that should encourage us to be charitable all the time in our thought, speech, and action, to think about others more than we think about ourselves, or at least equally. Here we go. Charity. Charity saves from deaths. Charity saves from all bad things. Tzedakah tetzil mimovet. And also charity brings all good things. The future redemption is going to be through charity. There we go. Here we go. Let's have the. All right. We're learning from a sefer, which is called a book, which is called Likuti Torah, and it is writings from the first Rebbe of Chabad, which is about 250 years ago. Excuse me. And it's talking about God and the Jewish people and the world and the Torah and the commandments. Topics which are usually not very clear in people's minds. What the Jewish people are, what God is, what reality is, what the Torah is, what the commandments are. So here, this is looking at things from God's point of view. Huh? How does the Rebbe know what God's point of view? That's what a true leader of the Jewish people is, what the Moshiach, the leaders of Chabad were the Moshiach of every generation. But you don't have to be a Moshiach to get it right. And in every generation, there's great rabbis who are totally devoted to the Torah and to the truth, God-fearing men, and they explain the Torah properly. And there's many, many facets of this explanation, like there is in everything else, right? So, but the true ones require certain criteria, and these rabbis have the criteria. So here is one of the rabbis who definitely has the criteria, and he's explaining what the Jewish people are, what God is, what the world is, Torah and the commandments, especially. Here we go. Ready? This is a sentence in the end of this week's Haftorah. Haftorah is a portion usually taken from the prophets, but not always, that's read after the regular Torah reading. And it's usually on the same topic as the Torah reading or connected to it, or at least it's connected to the time in which it's read, which is more accurate now in these times, because these times are the times after the destruction of the temple, after Tisha B'Av. So there's 7 Haftorahs which are read, which are comforting the Jewish people. And these comforts come from Isaiah. And Isaiah is telling the Jewish people, really the whole book of Isaiah has the same thing. But up until like the 40th, the Isaiah is like 62, 63 chapters long, something like that. And up to the 40th chapter, Isaiah talks about 90% of what he says is how bad the Jews are. And 10% is, but God will overlook that and forgive you. That'll overlook it. But then after like the 40th chapter, then it sort of switches around. And God talks 10% about how the Jews are disappointing God, but like 90% about how God will forgive them anyway, because his love for them is unconditional. And he's going to gather them together and bring the temple. So you don't have to worry. Eventually, all the Jews are going to come to their Jewish senses. And there is such a thing as Jewish senses. They'll all come to realize what a Jew is. So the Rebbe is helping us, because that's the idea of Mashiach, is to help the Jews to come to their Jewish consciousness. That's called return, tshuva, to return to their Jewish consciousness. Okay, here we go. So here's the last sentence of this week's Haftorah portion. It's in Isaiah 54, chapter 54. It's from the first, like to the, 11th, something like that? 11. Anyway, this is the last of the, here it goes. I'll tell you one second. Here we go. Ready? There it is. From sentence number 1, the beginning of 54, chapter 54, to the 10th sentence, 10 sentences. Here we go. And the last of the sentences is like this. Ki yaharim yamushu. God is saying how much he loves the Jews. Because the mountains will move. Vagavos and the hills to Muteno will crumble. V'chasdei mi'itcha, and my love for you, lo yamush, will never move. Ubrit shalom, and my covenant of peace, with the Jewish people that he made with Abraham, lo timot, will never crumble. It'll never move. Omar says, Rachamecha, your lover, the one who has mercy on you, Hashem, God. Good. So let's say in English, the mountains will move and the hills will crumble, but my love for you will never melt or move, and my covenant of peace will never, how do you say, be altered, said the one who loves you, God. Marachamecha, the one who has mercy on you, God. Good. Okay, so what are these mountains that are going to move? Well, that's what we're read about. None of it doesn't make any sense. Even if the mountains move and the hills, they dissolve, my love for you will never go away. What's one thing got to do with the other? Mountains dissolve all the time. There's all these earthquakes and stuff like that, right? There's always earthquakes and what is it? What's it called? Something seizures and faults in the ground, and things move. None of that. Sometimes they blow up mountains. Mountains, you can make a tunnel through a mountain, blow up. So because a mountain will move, so a mountain will move. It says, but my love for you will not move. How's that a comparison one to the other? I mean, there's shooting stars. Right? You see the stars that blow up. Whole entire stars blow up, right? So we're talking about a mountain. This is a mountain. You might think that if a mountain moves, then that's a sign that God doesn't love us anymore, right? Or if a mountain can fall, then for sure the love of God to the Jewish people, it can fall, right? Who would say a thing like that? Why would you even think something like that? It says the mountains will move, but my love for you will never move. Just say, my love for you will never move. What's this thing of mountains? What do you have to bring in mountains for? It should say, you can do the biggest sins and I will never leave you, Jews. That's better, right? What do you have to guise it in all sorts of metaphors? It says the Rebbe, you see, this thing about the mountains is more, how do you say, scary than you think. The mountains moving, this is really a very frightening thing. What is it? Hine haharim, this thing of the mountains, this is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And also he brings other places. So it is other places. The mountains are talking about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Those are called the mountains. Like it says, Shimu Harim, listen to the mountains. It's Riv Hashem, the argument of God. The Eitanim, most Oretz. It says, in the ancient ones, they found the earth. It says, who are the mountains in this case? Listen, mountains. God is talking to the mountains. He's talking to the merits of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the founders of Judaism. And if you look in the Bible, you'll see that they really did not do anything notable. Oh, here we go. Good morning. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they founded Judaism. And if you look in the Bible, you see that they didn't do really anything worthy of, founding a religion. There's no real religion over there that they did. What did Abraham do? He circumcised himself. He went and killed his son, wanted to kill his son. God stopped him at the last moment. And Yitzchak, Isaac, he said he dug a few wells. And Jacob, he fought with an angel. Okay, that's a little bit sort of, that's a little bit monumental over there. But it didn't found the religion. You can't explain it. You look in the whole book of Genesis, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, look at the whole story. You can't see anything religious that they did. They didn't make any, there was no rituals that they founded or any holidays or any meditations or any practices. They didn't conquer any lands or write any deep books or some sort of songs or some meditation, something. Nothing religious. They seemingly did nothing religious. God told them to do all sorts of things, and they did what God said. And what did God say to do? Go from here, go to there, right? Kill your son, circumcise yourself. The whole thing is really not really clear where the religion is. Which that, by the way, was one of the reasons I personally became religious. Is like 55 years ago, 54 years ago, that I read all these other books about religion, and they're all very interesting. All these religions, there's a lot of religions in the world. They're all very interesting, and they're spiritual, and their message is like really clear and this. And you read the Bible, and you can't really get the message of what's going on. And all of them seem to say that the Bible is true. Right? The Jewish Bible, that's true. But we're replacing the Jewish Bible. Oh, no. Okay. Replace. I hope there was just a brief power failure. Was it? Okay. So the answer is that Abraham and Isaac and Jacob demonstrated a type of a self-sacrifice. In fact, they brought self-sacrifice into the world. They were the first ones that were willing. I'm sorry, I just don't know what happened. There was a brief electrical shortage over here. Okay. I hope it continued. I don't know. We'll see. Let's go. Here we go. All right, here we go. All right. So what is Isaiah saying? Even if the mountains move, names Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The thing of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was that they were the first people to realize that serving God means not thinking about yourself. Willing to be totally self-sacrificing for the Creator, to do things for God, that God says that are opposite of what we understand. The opposite of what we understand. You understand God is supposed to be good, and in fact, the matter is God is good. So why did God tell Abraham to kill his son? What did he tell him to do? That makes no sense. And Abraham did it. Why? Only because God said, even though it was totally opposite everything that humanity stands for. People think about themselves. If Abraham would have killed his son, he wouldn't have gone to heaven. You can't kill people. Abraham said, I don't care. I'm not making any calculations. I'm doing what God says because God says it. That's the essence of Judaism. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we read the stories that they had all these terrible, weird, and frustrating, mind-wracking, they say soul-testing the experiences that seemed to indicate very clearly that it was not worth their while to follow what God says. And nevertheless, they said, we're not doing it for what's worth my while. I'm doing it because that's what God says. God is good. I'm sure that somehow or other, somewhere down the line, somehow or other in the cosmic picture, this is going to be good. And that's what Judaism is. Not thinking about yourself, not thinking about going to heaven, not thinking about what's going to benefit me, only thinking about what God wants. And that for sure is going to benefit everybody. But maybe 1,000 years later, here we're 4,000 years after God promised to Abraham that he's going to give him the land of Israel. And we really still haven't gotten it. Technically, we haven't gotten the land of Israel. Okay, so that's what Isaiah is saying. Even if the mountains fall, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their merit is not there anymore. Nevertheless, I am going to, I still love you. Here we go, let's go. Oh, and then also, like I said, Shimu Harim, Kachine, so it is, behold. Avod, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they are Bechinas Harim. They are like mountains for the Jewish people. Why? Because because the Jewish people with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they're just part of the earth. They're part of the earth. And the Jewish people, based by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they are what's called the footstool of God. Hadam Ragli. Lanatla Vanisa ad Roma Malot. And that, so to speak, can elevate God above God. That's God's footstool. God stands on it. It says, it says, when you go to the mountain of God. What's the mountain of God? says there's that's called Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When you go on the merit of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this elevates the Jewish people and, so to speak, elevates God. So to speak, gives God happiness. Behold, Ein Korem Avos, that they call the fathers of Judaism. There's only three: Shem, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Gimel Elo, that these three, they're like mountains. They elevate, Umalim, and they lift up the Jewish people. The Jewish people, they are Kalalo, Kal, and Neshamas. This is all the souls of the Jewish people. The Kalel to be included in the light of God, Baruch Hu. Now, the Jewish people are different from everybody else. The Jewish people are different from everybody else. The Jewish people, they were chosen by God. They're chosen. Let's go ahead and do this. What happened over here? They were, 1 second. Something happened. 1 minute. Yeah. See all these technical problems. Okay, let's go. Don't be this discouraged. Give me a second. Give me 1 minute. Give me a minute. I'm gonna go back to get my picture of the. Life is filled with all sorts of unexpected, unpleasant surprises. Here we go. 1 minute. Not too far. All right. No. Excuse me 1 second. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Here we go. Oh. There we go. Okay, back in the saddle. Here we go. So the mountains will move. Who are the mountains? The mountains will move, but my love for you will never move. Who are the mountains? It says Isaiah, the mountains are talking about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And even if the merit of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is not there, we'll see. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they are the fathers of Judaism. Why are they called the fathers of Judaism? Why? Because they elevate the Jews. What does it mean that they elevate the Jews? What does it mean to elevate? What does it mean to elevate the Jews? That they provide the Jews, they awaken inside of the Jews what they inherited to them. A father gives an inheritance to the children. So in every single Jew, there is an inheritance. There is an Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob inside of every Jew. There is this inheritance from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in every Jew, and that is a connection to God. Abraham is mostly love. Isaac, Yitzchak is mostly fear. And Yaakov, Jacob is mostly mercy or beauty. And that's inside of every Jew, and it has to be awakened. And that's what Abraham and Isaac and Jacob do. That means elevating the Jewish people. They stop being normal people in a normal world thinking about themselves, and they start to be people, godly people, thinking about what God wants. And what does God want? That this world should be a perfect place. God wants people to stop thinking about themselves and to think about the world. That's what God is thinking about. He's creating it all the time. It says that therefore God, that the Jewish people, they elevate the Jewish people, even the lowest level, the chitzonius of their souls. The entire Jewish soul should be interested in the truth in God. What's going on over here? One second. Share. All right. Yeah. Wow, today is really all right. That's what it's so. Therefore, it elevates the Jewish people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that they are the ones who elevate the Jewish people. They awaken inside of the Jewish people to connect themselves to the Creator. Like it says, says King Solomon, his left arm, this is talking about God, his left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me. At the level of the left arm, this is a fiery flame of love This elevates the head and the brain of the Jewish people. When we realize how precious God is and how good God is and how we're missing out on it, and that it's available to everyone. God is creating us. He's infinitely close to us. When we start to think about this at one moment, I mean, it's just impossible to believe when it's just a surprise that God is really creating me and God really cares about me. And then you come to love God. There's all these different types of love. And that's what Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, that's what they gave over to us. This is the Yamini Techalkeni. That's the right arm of God that embraces me. That's what King Solomon was talking about. Commercial, like an example of someone who hugs his friend from behind him. He lifts the person up, even his feet, even the lowest part of the person. That's what God does. He elevates us. Yamina Techalkeni, God embraces us with his right arm. That's the aspect of Abraham. We'll see. The left arm is Jacob, usually. Is Isaac. Omer was all the rabbis saying, why does it not say the letter Nun in Ashrei? There's a Psalm 145, and it's in alphabetical. There's 150 Psalms, right? So 145, it's written in numerical value. Ashrei Yisrael, B'chol Dorcha, and Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet. One letter is missing. The letter Nun. The letter Nun is missing. Why is the letter missing? So it says in the Gemara, why? Because it's talking about the falling down. No fell means to fall down of the Jewish people. Because Sona Yisrael is a nice way of saying the Jewish people. They don't want to see Jewish people fall. Now, it says, like it says, she will fall down and she won't raise up anymore the virgin Yisrael, the young virgin Yisrael. So Nun is falling down. Therefore, in Ashrei, it doesn't have the letter Nun because it's talking about the falling down of the Jewish people. What does it mean, falling down on the Jewish people? The Jewish people, when they decide they want to be like everybody else, so they've fallen down from their responsibility, from their identity. That's called falling down. So it said the Jewish people falling down. Therefore, King David didn't want to put it into the Psalms, but the Jewish people do fall. And how do they get back up? Nevertheless, Chazar David came back afterwards and he said, Somcha Baruch HaKodesh, and he supported the Jewish people with a holy inspiration. Like it says, Somech Hashem l'chol hanoflim, that God will support, lift up all of those who fall. Oh, so what's going on? The Jewish people are prone to falling down and staying down. The Jewish people enjoy being normal, like everybody else. What do they have to be different than everybody else? Of course, they tried it. That's basically what Zionism is. A very organized and exciting and the enthusiastic, whatever it is, effort to normalize Judaism. Will be normal. And then when we're normal, then people will stop hating us. That's what was the idea was behind it. Jewish people enjoy being normal like everybody else. What do we have to be different from everybody else? We act like everybody, we get pleasure from the same things everybody else gets pleasure from. Why should we have to be different? We have to be the teachers of the world. We have to be an example. I don't want to be an example. So that's what's called falling down. The Jewish people enjoy falling down. They enjoy the lowest common denominator. That's the Jewish people. Nevertheless, it says that God supports them. He lifts them up. God lifts them up. The Jewish people, no matter how low they fall, they abandon Judaism, they abandon the Torah, they abandon the commandments, they abandon everything. God forbid, right? But we see they do it and they enjoy it. Nevertheless, God promises he will lift all the Jewish people up. They'll come back to their true Jewish identity. Ha'inyan is like this. The Kasif, it says, "V'tipo lifnei raglav." It's in the and what is it in the Megillah, right? It said that's right. That Esther fell in front of the feet of Achashverosh. She fell down in front of his feet. When was this? This is the story of Purim. That Esther realized that her people were, there was a decree to kill all the people. She went to Achashverosh and she fell in front of him. It says, and she fell on her feet. Esther represents the Jewish people. In the time when there is no holy temple, Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people, they are falling down. They're fell down. They're like everybody else. It used to be when there was a holy temple that people could go to the holy temple and they would feel responsible. They would feel that there's a creator and I am responsible to the creator. I am a Jew. I'm different than everyone else. There is a creator and the creator wants me to serve him and improve the whole world, the whole entire world. That's why in Judaism we have a holy temple, a place, a holy temple. There's no other religion that has this. There's copies, whatever they try to say, but here we have written in the Torah, God said, I want you to make a holy place made from physical objects. And eventually that holy place is going to be in Jerusalem, then it's going to be permanent, and it's never going to move. Even now that the holy temple is destroyed, all religious Jews pray in the direction of the temple. There's others that try to copy us and this, but but this has been going on for the Jewish people for over 2,000 years. We've been praying in the direction of the temple, and the temple has been since the Jewish people left Egypt. Right? They had a tabernacle, then it moved with them. But when you could go, you would feel that God cares about the physical world. You'd feel that God, there's a creator. You'd feel that there's a purpose in life. Everyone would feel that they are chosen by God, that no one is here by accident. You'd feel it in the holy temple. And that we have a reason that we have arms and legs and things in order to do things for the creator to make the world healthy. But when there is no holy temple, so the Jewish people feel, and justly so, that they're like everybody else. There's no godliness in the world. There's no responsibility. There's no special thing. Why? It says, let's understand this. How can it be above? That the Jewish people above, and they, we cannot possibly explain this. What it means, the source of the Jewish people above falls down. But here in this physical world, we can have good examples. We can see the Jewish people. Right? We can see the Jewish people as a physical people. Right? A very interesting thing with the Jewish people, right? I saw a video with these Jews in New York. New York is a very left place. Jews for Hamas. Jews for Hamas. A big thing, Jews for Hamas. And these Jews are against Israel and they're against everything. Of course, goes without saying they're against the Torah, they're against the commandments, and they're against the whole business. But they're proud that they're Jews. They are proud that they are Jews. They don't deny that they're Jews. And in fact, if you tell them, you're not a good Jew, you're a Jew-hating Jew, they'll say, I'm just as good a Jew as you are. You can't define you. Who are you to define them as a Jew? They're jealous. Their Judaism is a very important thing. So we see that they're Jews, but at the same time, they've taken their identity, which is their identity, and they don't lose the identity. And they put it down into the ground. In the Tanya, it's even worse. It says it's like putting the face of a king into the toilet that's filled with excrement. Even for a second, there's no bigger embarrassment like that. The 24th chapter of the Tanya. But that's called falling down. Falling down. Okay, so we can understand how the Jewish people in this world, physical world, but what about spiritual? And the spiritual source of the Jewish people are, there's sons of God, they're the chosen of God. How can it be? So there he says, let's leave that around. Let's just look at the physical world. All the Jewish people, when they come down to be in a body and an animal soul, what happened? Where did this idea that Jewish people are like everybody else, where did it come from? God himself. God put the Jewish people in the world. They look like everyone. They act like everyone else. And God's trying to tell us that, listen, you're not like everybody else. So if we're not like everybody else, why did you make us like everybody else? And why? He says that's the whole idea. You're supposed, because the world is good. And you're supposed to show how good the world is, how good the body is, how good humanity is. It says the Jewish soul, which the Jews are called the sons of God, right? The essence of God is put into the world, into what's called a natural soul. That's natural soul is another word for natural soul is me. Everybody says that to themselves. And that soul, natural soul is inside of a body. And now we got problems, says the Rebbe, but God helps us. Matan Torah, when God gave the Torah, it says, panim b'panim, that God spoke to us face to face. Jehovah Kodesh Baruch Hu, that God was with the Jewish people like face to face. What does face mean? Face means what our main interest is. Right? What we're facing, what we're interested in. That's where God's interest was in the Jewish people. For Cain or Yakol Zaman, also the time when the Holy Temple was there, Upanim, Elpanim, it wasn't as revealed in the Holy Temple as it was on Mount Sinai. The tablets were in the Holy of Holies. They were hidden from everybody. But nevertheless, there was a very strong revelation and a feeling of the creator of the universe when people went to the Holy Temple. Upanim shel nefesh, that faced the face of the soul was facing God. What do you mean is the face of the soul? For instance, we can see clearly, panim mitgala, a face of a person reveals all of the senses of a person. Seeing, hearing. The person's personality is revealed mostly through his face. There's some people that can tell, like from your handwriting, from your this, from your the soles of your feet, who knows, whatever. But generally speaking, a normal person, you can tell from his face. That's the person's personality shines through his face. So we see on Mount Sinai, God's face was facing our face, and our face was facing God's. What does that mean? Because the face shines the main thing of the life of a person, which is not the case. The backside of a person, Eino Mitgala, it only reveals just a little bit of life. You can tell that it's a human being and that he's alive. Also the same thing with the soul. The main interest of a person, the main identity of a person. V'shaman, there is the main will and the desire of a person in his nature. This is called face. What I'm really interested in. Huh? That's the thing of bribery. That's the thing of bribery. You get a person that he's a judge, and he's an excellent judge, and he went through university, and he went through all the tests, and in order to become a judge, he was a lawyer, and he became a judge, and now he's sitting on this behind the bench, and he's just for justice. He's not afraid of anyone, and he is deciding on this, and someone comes and slips $1 million into his bank account. Swiss bank accounts. Nobody will ever get it, except for the... But all of a sudden, all of his opinions change. All of his ways of thinking are different. All of a sudden, he thinks about the person who gave him the money. What happened? What happened? His face changed. The inside, what his true interest was, really was not justice. His true interest was himself. That's what his true interest. And as soon as he got a little bribe for himself, and he was promised a little bit more, because all of a sudden, his true interest was revealed, and he himself might not have even known it. That's what's called your true deep interest. He's willing to sacrifice his job, his reputation, his everything for money or for whatever, a threat or something like that. Which is not the case, things that are not so important to a person outside, but it's just that he has to do, he is forced to do, or agav grera, or he's just, I'd say occasionally, not occasionally, the unintentionally, right, does it. Right? Ubakrirus, this is the backside of a person. He only has a little bit of life in it, right? Some people, let's say a car. Some people, their car is the main thing. They have to have a car. It has to be shining. It has to be. Other people, they don't care. The main thing is the car should work and it should look okay. It shouldn't look like a jalopy, whatever it is. It's all right. Doesn't make any difference to them if it's old, if it has a scratch on it. Other people, exactly the opposite. Their car, they go crazy. You scratch my car, they go berserk. So therefore, the main interest of this person is not so much where he's going, it's how he's going. He's going in this car. He's got a Lombretto or he's got a whatever it is. He's got a Bugatti. He's traveling in this car. This is the main big thing with him. So important. So that's where his main interest is, right? That's where his interest is in the car. You got to have this car. And other people, it's not such a big interest. Doesn't care. What a person is really interested. That's what's called the face. Now let's talk about us with God. In the time there was a holy temple, all of the Jewish people, in their nature, they were drawn to serve God, to love God, to cling to God, from their own personal desire and their own personal will. That's a Jew. This is the main life of a person. They really, truly felt that doing something for God is more valuable than doing something for myself, which that's the truth. I mean, just think about it for one instant, right? I mean, in religious terms, it's talking about going to heaven, right? You do a good deed, you go to heaven. But heaven is eternal, right? Heaven is eternal. But in Jewish terms, it's not just talking about going to heaven. It's talking about something much more real. If in this world, let's say you're famous and you're on the stage and there's 2 billion people that turn in to watch you and you make money, you've got power in your this. But eventually a person dies. And after he dies, what's left? Oh, I remember that person. And so what? People talk about you. You're not even alive anymore. What do you get out of it? You're dead. And the money for sure you can't use. So the person goes to heaven. He goes to heaven, and the good deeds that he did, those are what really counts in heaven. You can't take your money. You did good deeds. You were a good person, right? Okay. But Judaism says that's also true. That's true. But there's something even more important. When you do something good in this world for God, is that improves the whole entire world. That improves the whole entire world. It's like a soldier in battle. He doesn't care about what he does. It's not important. His sacrificing himself for his country, even if nobody ever knows about him. Nobody even remembers him. He throws his past away. He throws his family away. He throws his future away. He's throwing everything away just for the good of the country, for the good of says here we're doing not just for the country. The country could be very important. Here for the good of God. God is getting pleasure. God is getting pleasure. Well, nowadays it's not so appealing. But in the time of the temple, that was very appealing. People really wanted to please God. It was very, very important to people. They didn't care what happened to them. And the bigger the sacrifice they could make, the greater was their joy. The less that it was famous, the more they desired it. Because you're doing it only for the Creator. You're doing something eternal. After all, we're just creations, right? All the people were interested was in the Creator. And you can make an infinite mark in the world. Who cares if nobody knows what it is? And all the other needs that they had in the time of the Holy Temple, even though that they used to eat, they drank, they did business, but that wasn't so important. That was like things you have to do in order to live. This was done, like I say, casually, without so much enthusiasm. But Krirush, it was done, they say, there's a word in English, I think, called perfunctionally. Look it up. I think there's such a word. But in their business and their other things, they did it, but it was not an essential thing, which is not the case in the time when there's no holy temple. Then it's exactly the opposite. The nature of man is to be drawn after physical things in the world, right? I want to be famous. I want to be successful. Even what good does good, that a person does good and he turns from bad, he arouses love for God and clinging to God. Nevertheless, he does it because he has to make a tremendous effort. It's not natural. You have to really think and really contemplate, is there really such a thing as God? God really creates me. You have to really think about this deeply and the greatness of God. And then you have to incline your heart to arouse love. That's called la sota ba'ava, to force yourself to love God. That this love has to be asiya b'lev. You have to force yourself, and this is called achor. Loving God, this is the secondary thing. The main thing is you love yourself. Right? So even a big rabbi, whatever, he gets a bribe, all of a sudden his whole mind changes. He goes crazy. People are willing to do anything for success. That the movement should be successful, that they should be successful. They should get their name on the paper. Oh, it's a big thing. He's smiling. Look at, isn't this you, Daddy? Yes, it's me. I made it here. It's big time. Right? Top of the world. So that's the way the world is now. Why? Because we don't have a holy temple. That's what's called the Jewish people falling down. That this is it says that God says, you have turned your back to me. Even what used to be the inside of the Jewish people, the inside, this is not important to the Jews. Not important. This level is called falling. Falling regarding the essence of the soul. That the soul on its own is attached to the essence of God. It's attached to truth. It's almost like taking a person who's a genius in playing music and stuffing up his ears and closing his eyes and tying his hands. So he can't do anything, he can't play anything, he can't listen, right? So what's the main interest in a person like that? Well, he gets a good meal, whatever it is, it's a warm house. That's what he's interested in. He's not interested in music. He can't be. He can't express himself. The same thing with the Jewish people when there's no holy temple. The Jewish people used to be interested in true harmony and true beauty and godliness, the creator of the universe. They really felt it was something real. And that was their main interest. But now we don't have a holy temple. It's like our eyes have been covered and our ears have been stuffed up and our hands have been tied. Says the Rebbe, that's like falling down. The nature of the Jewish soul is to be like a fire, to raise up. But that's before it falls down. When it falls down, it's like a flame that doesn't raise up, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. How to raise up the soul, okay? So that's the idea, what it means, that even though the mountains fall down, that's the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob inside of us, even though that they've fallen down and we do not have any love of God, fear of God, the connection of the beauty of God, we don't have any connection. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob have fallen down, but nevertheless, God still loves us. What that means, we'll get to, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Devar Malchut.